Welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of the Southerners podcast, Teacher Talks, where you can get to know more about your teachers.
I'm Lily Wu.
And I'm Sarah Sun, and in this episode, we interviewed Miss Demetres, a business and technology teacher here at Great Neck South High. Hi, Miss Demetres. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this short interview today for our podcast. We have a few questions for you.
Okay, great.
Firstly, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Sheryl Demetres. I'm a teacher here at Great Neck South. I teach various different business classes, and I've been here for 16 years.
So, what makes you want to become a teacher?
What made me want to become a teacher? I always wanted to be a teacher. I feel like I was scared of it when I was younger. I was overwhelmed with thinking of teaching students and making sure that they learned and the material and liked me and things like that. I loved business, so I knew I wanted to go to school for business. And then I went to Binghamton, got my degree in consulting and in marketing, and then worked for Estee Lauder, for Clinique, a couple of big marketing companies. But I always loved the teaching component. So if a new person was getting ready to work with us in our department or something like that at work, I loved the onboarding, the process of getting that person understanding the job and everything like that. And I realized the education part of it was missing. So I went back to school and got my master's degree in business education. So that's how I became a teacher. And that was, I think I was 25, 26.
Wow, that transition from the really business professional environment to a school environment is really interesting. So do you find those two environments similar in any ways or different?
I would say they're similar in terms of deadlines that you have to meet, or meetings and things like that we have. Obviously the day is shorter because the school day, when I worked in corporate America, the day was longer. My commute is actually longer than it was taking the train when I was going into Manhattan. But it is very different in a lot of ways also, because obviously you're working with students. It's different than working with adults, and you have to be flexible and understand that it's a completely different environment, like a school versus an office kind of a setting.
So we heard that you have an identical twin at North that also teaches business. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah, I have an identical twin sister. Her name's Cara Accardi. We were both Burger before we got married, and she teaches at Great Neck North. She teaches business, the same exact classes. We actually kind of plan our fashion and our college law classes together. And she actually did her student teaching here. I couldn't do it with her, she couldn't be my student teacher, but with Mr. Vine. And then the very next year there was an opening at North and she got it. So she's been there, I think, 11 years now. And we actually both worked for Clinique and Estee Lauder together before we got into education. And I just got into education a little bit before her. She wound up working at a publishing company after she left Estee Lauder, and then went back for teaching a little bit later. But we are pretty much the exact same people. Our husbands have been best friends since they were 18 years old, and we both each have one son, and both of our sons are in kindergarten. So it's
That is so crazy.
It is, and we're very lucky. Yeah, it's really cool. And it's if we go to, if I go to DECA and she's not there, the students that don't know that she has an identical twin, they don't know it's not her. So they'll be oh, hi, Miss Accardi, and I'm oh, it's Miss Demetres, and they'll be yeah, okay, stop playing, I know it's, and I'm no, I'm really serious, it's really not her, and they're dumbfounded. So it's kind of fun. We've never really played games on people like that, but the people that don't know she has a twin really are kind of blown away by it. It's fun.
So speaking of DECA, you're an advisor of the club here at South High. Do you want to talk a bit about your experience?
Yeah, I've been a co-advisor now since I've been here, so it's been about 16 years with Mr. Vine. And when I first started, our first trip for the national competition for ICDC was in California. And I remember there were 19 students that made it to nationals that year. And this year, I think we had 40 make it, but 38 go. So obviously, the club has just been getting bigger and better and everything like that. But it's a great club. I think it gives the students an opportunity to not just learn about business, but learn speaking skills and networking and so many other, thinking on your feet also, planning, organizing, like so many important skills that even if you're not a business student or you're not interested in business, like graduating from high school, there are so many other things I think that you can learn from DECA that have nothing to do with business at all. So I love it. I love being able to use my knowledge from before I was teaching and actually the education process to also help the kids throughout the club. So
That's really amazing, and it's a really huge club. So
yeah,
it
it is.
is.
I think it's the biggest club in school. I think it usually has anywhere from 150 to 180 students. So
Yeah, I know me and Lily both had a great time in DECA.
I'm glad. Yay.
So aside from business, what are some of your other hobbies and pastimes?
I love anything that has to do with the beach. I love the sun. I love the ocean. I'm from the South Shore, so I love like the actual ocean. I now live in Northport, so it's the North Shore. So the sound is not anything like the ocean. There's no waves. But I love anything that has to do with the beach. I love spending time with my family. Anything sports or athletic related. My husband also is a teacher. He teaches at Jericho, and he also coaches. So we do a lot of family activities together that involve the beach and sports and anything really outdoors and being active.
What are some of the sports that you enjoy playing?
Well, when I was in high school, I played volleyball and lacrosse in school. And then when I was at Binghamton, I didn't play for the teams or for the club teams, but I was involved in a lot of intramurals. The only sport I really feel like I can't play well is basketball, and it bothers me. I don't know why, but I love playing really all kinds of sports. I'm very competitive, and I love watching sports as well. So I'm a Giants fan, a Yankee fan, a Rangers fan. Those are my three big sports teams. I don't really watch basketball because I'm not really good at it.
So what is your best memory from South High for those years that you've been teaching here?
Oh my gosh, my best memory. A couple of years ago, I had a student graduate who was graduating, and I was trying to talk. It was actually not about business. We were actually talking in the class about just making the most of moments in your life, because you never get that day or that time back. It was right after I had my son. My son is 5.5. And I was sharing with the student that I was home with my son and my husband was coaching. And I was telling the student, that Logan wanted me to play with him. And I was in the middle of doing laundry and washing the dishes and getting lunch together. And, it was so much going on. And I remembered that quote that I read about not getting that moment back. So I just stopped what I was doing for 5 minutes to play with him, So I shared that in class with the student. And she told me a couple of weeks later that she's like, Miss Demetres, I just have to tell you that I have a younger sister, and I was doing college apps or whatever I was doing, and she asked me to help paint her nails. And at first I was like, oh, I'm so busy. I am doing my college apps. I have so much to do. And then she's like, I thought about what you said about not getting that time back in that moment. And she's like, I stopped what I was doing and I helped my little sister paint her nails. And she's like, it just reminded me that so much happens in your life every single day, and it's important to sometimes take those little moments with friends or family or just with yourself, because you can get so wrapped up in everything and become almost robotic. So it has nothing to do really with education in them. Clearly I love DECA and I love having first place winners at DECA and those achievements, but sometimes it's making a connection with the student that's just about life in general, that makes you kind of remember that and feel lucky to be able to make those connections.
That's really amazing, and that's a really great life lesson too. Thanks. Especially in high school when we are in these this transition years into adulthood, and it's a really great thing that you're imparting those messages to your students.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So we have one final question.
Sure.
What's the best thing about being a teacher?
The best thing, I will say, I'll give a two kind of part answer. I love when I teach something and you can actually see a light bulb go off, students get it. Or I'll go over something like a project or an assignment and students get really into it. I feel like making that connection, I know I've used that word a bunch of times, but it's really important, I think. So I love that kind of that aha moment when you can see a student get something or learn something. So I think that's probably one of the most the best parts of being a teacher, and obviously being able to spend time the summertime with my family and not having that typical 9 to 6 job or have to work on the weekends or anything. So obviously, the time helps be able to spend that time with my family or go to sports games or something like that. But as far as the classroom is concerned, really making an impact on the students, I think, and having them come back and say oh my God, we had car show last week, and one of my former students who wasn't a great student in school, he came back and he's like, I just need to tell you, the impact that you made on me. I run my own business now, and it had to do with e-commerce and online, but he's just like, I didn't think I was like going to be into business, or I didn't really think I cared about school, and then I graduated, and like the things that you taught in class were like real life lessons that helped me after I graduated, and now he's super successful. So again, making those connections, or like that impact that you can make on a student at a younger age, and then them take that with them forever, I think that that's like incredibly rewarding. So I'd have to say that.
Well, that's really interesting and amazing, because like business is such a holistic field of study. It not only like teaches you like the actual like finance or like the actual knowledge itself, but also a lot of lifelong skills, such as like how to communicate, how to like plan and budget and everything like that. So that's really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's different than other subjects. I mean, all subjects are important to make a well-rounded student, but I feel like there's a lot of different things and skills that you can teach in our classes that you don't necessarily learn in everything. So.
All right, thank you so much. That's all for our interview today. Thank you again, Ms. Demetres, for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by The Southerner, Great Neck South High's newspaper. It is hosted by Sarah Zun and Lily Wu, directed by Amelia Liao, and edited by Janice Lee.